Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 239 of At Odds with Wrestling. Joe and Adam here. Adam, hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Joe, and I just want you to know I'm definitely not watching the Yankee game while I also have the NFL draft results up on my screen. 100% attention dedicated to the podcast tonight, I promise.
Yes, it's so different than the days when I typically have your undivided attention during these shows, when you're not bidding on eBay things or whatever else it is that you're up to.
Exactly. Well, you know what? I'm multi-talented. I've got the podcast thing locked down, so I'm branching out. I figure, I only have to dedicate 20% of my brain to the podcast since I'm so good at it.
Oh my goodness. So hey, you missed a good LVAC show.
Yeah.
Crowd was rocking, crowd was hot. 6 matches, everything ran really quick. If it wasn't a torrential downpour, we would have started on time because people were texting Mantis and Chris and this one and that one that they were stuck in traffic and everything else like that. But even with a late start time, I think the wrestling was over shortly after 10, if not right at 10. And that was with intermission and everything else like that. But yeah, it was a fun time. I know you sat home and watch the AIW show, and that might be in your talking stuff for wrestling,
Yeah, perhaps more on that later.
Right. But no, it was like I said, it was. It's always good. It's been, it's been about 4 months since there's been an LVAC show, and it feels like it was both just yesterday and forever since the last show. There might be another show at Sokol's in June. They're trying to hammer that out. But the drive-in show is for certain the next show.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was following a little bit on Twitter. Some of our friends were tweeting out about the results and what was happening. And I think it was Brett tweeted out that Dan Champion loves the business. Yeah. So I was like, oh, shit, Crimson Mask. And then I saw it. I'm like, what did he do? Scratch his chin too hard? Come on, Dan.
No, it was bleeding quite a bit. I wasn't sure if it was scrape on the chin or busted lip or whatever it was. But, looked pretty vicious for Dan, getting that sympathy, getting the crowd behind him. There was one thing that I did chastise Dan for afterwards, because Dan has been a baddie his whole time in the LVAC,
Yeah.
And now he's a goodie, and the fans are firmly behind him. They've been wanting to chant for him for a long time, and now they can, and they do. But early on in the match, he took the microphone, and he said, if you're going to cheer for me, you got to do it right. Big Dan, because I guess they were doing it with a different cadence.
They were like, Big Dan.
Whatever it was, and I'm like, and I said to Dan, I go, you getting on the mic and telling the fans they're chanting for you wrong is a heel move.
Yeah.
You might just want to be like, well, that's how they're going. I'm going with them. Or if I'm, or I could change what I'm doing in the match or, something to get without getting on the microphone and literally telling them you're cheering for me wrong. And I just had to give Dan a little needling for that,
Yeah, I mean it's new for him. He's not a natural baby face like me, just a likable person.
Oh my goodness.
So it's gonna take him a little work. I appreciate you giving him some pointers, but he is he's very good at being a heel, and it's going to take a little bit of work to land this babyface thing, but I think he'll get it.
I have faith in Dan as well, but I kid Dan because I love and he don't listen to this show,
Yeah, that's why I say so much shit about him, because he doesn't listen.
Exactly. All right, let's get down to business.
Yeah.
And now, At Odds with Wrestling presents This Day in Wrestling History.
So, this day in wrestling history, we're going to work backwards from here, right?
Okay.
This day in wrestling history, in 2003, World Wrestling Entertainment held the Backlash event from Worcester, Mass.
Worcester.
Yes. And again, it was a very 2003 World Wrestling Entertainment show, except the main event was in his first World Wrestling Entertainment match, Goldberg beating The Rock.
Oh, what a great memory.
This would be, like I said, Goldberg's first match. This would be The Rock's last match until the following year's WrestleMania. Obviously the build up to all this with heel Hollywood Rock on TV was fantastic. And things don't go so well for Goldberg in his first run of the World Wrestling Entertainment. He wins the title, but kind of not the best.
He got to be Goldust's sidekick.
He wore the wig, because we need to humiliate him backstage, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll teach you to be successful somewhere else.
Exactly. But yeah, this is a standard. I think this is also the first Brock Lesnar John Cena match.
Okay. First run Brock, right?
Oh yeah.
Because he left the same time Goldberg did at Mania.
Well, no. Okay, so Lesnar had debuted. We're a year into Lesnar's run at this point.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the following WrestleMania, like WrestleMania 04, when Goldberg leaves.
Yeah, it was Austin going over as the referee over both of the guys that wrestled.
Right.
Okay.
And this show also has Big Show versus Rey Mysterio, which is, if you've ever seen that gif of Rey on the stretcher on the backboard and Big Show just picking up Rey on the backboard and hitting the ring post with him.
And then just dropping Rey, when he can't brace himself. Oh, yeah.
That's where this is from.
Good times.
So, again, also on this day in wrestling history, 21 years ago, was the second ever Ring of Honor show, A Night of Appreciation. Eddie Guerrero had been re-signed by the World Wrestling Entertainment, but they were allowing him to run out his independent dates. And this was, if not the last one of the last ones that he got to do before going back to WWE.
Okay.
And again, it's still a very young Ring of Honor, still working itself out. Some names that would not stick around very long. Names that would go on to become household names in the world of wrestling, Ring of Honor, whatever. The two notable things that I would mention, this is the first ever Low-Key versus AJ Styles match.
I like one of those guys, kind of.
Mm-hmm. This is also the debut in Ring of Honor of the Ring Crew Express.
I've never heard of them.
Dunn and Marcos, you've never heard of the Ring? Oh, my God. You're going to get so many angry messages specifically from the Rochester area after this.
No, I'm sorry. I've never heard of them.
How dare you? But there's also a Texas Wrestling Academy gauntlet match. Spanky, American Dragon, Paul London, Michael Shane, and John Hope. Now, you're going to say to yourself, I know 4 of those 5 names, right?
Yeah, I don't know the last one.
All right, so the reason you don't know John Hope's name, so during this match, it starts off with him and Paul London, and Paul London goes and does an acai moonsault to the outside, and John Hope catches him, but on the catch, John Hope breaks his leg. And when I say breaks his leg, Adam, I mean this is his last wrestling match ever.
He got Joe Theismann.
It was really bad.
Okay.
And a lot of the promotion of this show, when it came out on videotape, was like, oh, it's Eddie Guerrero's last match before going back to WWE, but also witness the horrific injury to John Hope.
Fucking ghouls.
Exactly. Well, it was Rob Feinstein. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
The next Ring of Honor would take the month of May off, and their next show, which we'll talk about on the timeline, because if everything's lining up here 21 years ago, we'll be talking about my first Ring of Honor show, and I'm very excited to talk about that in June.
All right. I still haven't had my first Ring of Honor show.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you've seen Ring of Honor. You're aware of Ring of Honor,
yes,
right?
I've never been there. That's all.
Okay.
If I go to a Ring of Honor show now, does that count? Can I still say? All right. Making sure I can still have the cred. Because you know me, I'll claim that I've seen the original Ring of Honor, but
you could say that this is the Ring of Honor that did not cost Kerry Silken thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes, this is the one that made money.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's making money, but it's not costing Kerry a lot of money. Is what it is.
Gotcha.
All right, so now it's time for our head-to-head 1998, 25 years ago, Monday Night Raw versus Monday Nitro. Monday Nitro, taking place from the Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, Nitro is still 3 hours. However, due to the NBA playoffs, the first hour of Nitro airs live from 8 to 10. The second and third hours of Nitro air the next day.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember that, but that sounds WCW-ish.
And they even say during the course of this program that regarding Thunder, they just say, we don't know when Thunder will be airing this week, so please check your local listings.
WCW, everybody.
So obviously the first hour of Nitro, as it always would be, is very promo heavy. But we would most notably get yet another saga in our updates of how Dean Malenko is doing in retirement from one young Chris Jericho.
Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. when tickets go on sale. We go from a great young man trying to terminate...
Welcome to Monday Night Jericho!
To this guy.
He didn't paint that picture. You know what? I'd like to thank you, Quasi-Juice Guerrero, because ever since I beat you for your mask, your persona, your identity, which is a fine mamma jamma of a necklace, I might say, I've left you as a shell of your former self. No further evidence than last week when I had you screaming, I quit! I quit! When I had you in the clutches of the Lion Tamer. And speaking of quitters...
He didn't quit. He refused.
I want that shirt.
Thank you.
That's the airbrush one. That's not the real one.
Alcoholics, an exclusive interview with Dean Malenko. So, Dean, how does it feel to be the #2 wrestler in the entire world, next to myself, of course? Speaking to the mic, Dean. And, Dean, congratulations on being the new fry cook at Harry's Burgers in Tampa, Florida.
You got the job.
Excuse me, he's a little bit nervous. And lastly, Dean, how does it feel to be sitting at home, a quitter, after you were beaten by your role model, your hero, your idol, Lionheart Chris Jericho?
Dean's a little more talkative
than usual. Well, Dean, don't you fret. You can live vicariously through the true man of 1,004 holds. Because I'm going to dedicate this match to you, Dean. I love you, little trooper. Thank you!
Now, for a good chunk of that, they had to cut in very tight on Jericho. I don't know if you noticed, there was a guy in the front row with a sign that said, "The flock sucks a cock."
Joe, why would you take a sign to Nitro with the said that?
Come on. I don't know. Well, again, anyway, no comment. I was not at this Nitro.
You're bitter that he left ECW. I get it, but
no, I was still a fan of Raven. Come on.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, we only get an hour, in this day in wrestling history for us on Nitro. Well, over on Monday Night Raw is live. Monday Night Raw is from Hampton, Virginia. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get out my atlas here. Hampton, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. Those are only like 15 minutes away from each other.
It's like you could almost drive a Jeep there.
Well, okay. So, I don't know how much of this you want to get into, because, it's all over the internet today, of course, But this is one of, if not the most overinflated moments in the history of the Monday Night Wars. We'll just play the first part, okay?
All right.
Not the other 9.
What I want to know is, does anybody here have any of the free tickets that WCW gives away to try to fill up their TV? And if anybody doesn't know, anything. We just want to say what's up to our boys, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. POWCW, let my people go. Let my people go.
Oh, there's the tank.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that, like, they have a Mandela effect. Maybe it's the giant, like, pipe on the top, but they all thought it was a tank.
Get a shot of them closing the gate. The war begins, but the cowards ended by closing the gate. WCW is a bunch of cowards. As we stand now. Go down there, all the way down. We stand now at your door, knocking on that door to let us in and fight the war. D-Generation X now knocks on your door. We call you out. WCW, open the door. D-Generation X knocks at your door. We are asking you. D-Generation X calls you to accept the battle. No.
I feel like Hunter didn't come with a lot of things prepared to say.
All we want to do is talk. We would like...
That's all.
Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Hey, Eric Bishop, if you got a minute, I'd like you to come out. Just want to have a word with you.
If you just got a second,
Please open the door. We would like to speak to Mr. Bishop. This is Sean Waltman. I just thought I'd come by and give you a chance to tell me what you're planning on. Let's move. Since you didn't have the guts to call me on the phone.
At least you could do an apology.
Okay. So, I like that everyone involved in this takes credit for this. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the most, and in all the Monday night, the WWE produced Monday Night War things, was DX drove a tank to WCW show while it was live and going on, and WCW ran scared, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
very clearly not what happened. Triple H takes credit for this. Vince Russo takes credit for this. Bruce Pritchard takes credit for this. Russo claims he wrote in the script the day before that DX brings a rocket launcher to Nitro. Okay?
Bro, it's going to be sweet.
Right. Because, again, a rocket launcher. Whatever. Okay? Now, obviously, this very clearly taped during the day. I don't even think the show is running live at this point. In Bischoff's mind, this was going on while he was in the ring with Hogan. But, like, Bischoff, his memory ain't so good. But the one thing...
Doesn't Bischoff claim it was that if he knew they were out there, he would have invited them in because it would have been great television?
Yes.
What a full of shit.
But again, like, when they were there, it's like 3 p.m, and, like, fans are lining up. I think there was also a doctored sign that they did for the Norfolk scope on WWE TV saying that it was still free tickets available,
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I'll give Bischoff credit for is he says in a lot of the interviews that this doesn't work. Like, it worked, okay? But it doesn't work in the way that it does without Sean Waltman, having just recently been in WCW.
Okay.
If it was just Billy and Road Dogg and Hunter and Chyna, it's something. But the fact that Waltman cut the promo on TV 2 weeks ago, and now he's here at WCW's doorstep, that adds a little bit more, like, realism to it.
Yeah. It's like a recently fired guy going back to his old job to talk shit.
Yeah.
I know what that's like.
Down to the docks at the importer-exporter business.
Yeah.
Yelling at other longshoremen about the way that they're packing the end caps or whatever.
Yeah, let Dave Holden go. Let Dave Holden go.
Oh, my God.
What I want to know is...
No, I don't want to watch this again. Stop. All right, but things do actually also happen on this episode of Monday Night Raw. Of course, Jeff Jarrett continues his winning ways. Not really. Owen Hart turns and joins the Nation.
Okay.
And there is a Dude Love promo that did not come up because this is the night after Backlash. and I wish this promo got put up, but it's another good one where Dude had won the match by disqualification over Austin at the pay-per-view. So he postulates one of three scenarios that should happen. Is that there should be a 16-man tournament of any former WWE champions that are still in the company, and them getting and Dude Love getting a bye in the first round, or doing a rematch between Dude Love and the previous World Wrestling Entertainment champion, which would have been Shawn Michaels, or Vince just come out and hand Dude the title here. We get
two options were good.
Right. We get Austin versus Goldust in the main event, and again, they're so hard hammering the Montreal Screwjob stuff. Like Vince is out at ringside as the timekeeper, Jerry Briscoe's the referee, and so on and so forth. And they're just keep on hammering it. Like we're 6 months away from it, and it's every week on TV, which I think a lot of people forget about, like how much they were still harping on the Montreal Screwjob stuff. Now, granted, all these little pieces of stuff that they're trying finally make the masterpiece at the next pay-per-view, but we'll get there when we get there.
Sure. Okay. A lot of this era of Dude Love I forgot.
Oh.
You know, like I in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other people who don't have the memory that you do will just remember like Corporate Mankind, you know, and that kind of turn. Mm-hmm. But like the Dude Love heel era, it is very fuzzy to me.
It doesn't last long. Like it's 2 months, if that, you know?
Sure. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff in WWE that had very short runs, but like are iconic and stick out, you know?
Yep. And like I said, this is the big, like, if it wasn't before, this absolutely is. Like, I, like, there was a time where, like, I'm like, okay, I'll make sure I watch the Raven stuff. I'll make sure I watch the Jericho stuff on WCW. But, like, I had no idea the top of the card stuff. Like, we missed the formation of the Wolfpack last week. And Conan joins the Wolfpack this week. And, like, the segment isn't on the network version of the Nitro because they start singing like a song that they don't have rights to, so they can't have the segment on the Nitro, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like moments that happen that I didn't see that don't even live on in prosperity because they're not on the network versions of these Nitros.
That's why I say copyright is to be ignored. Let's just do everything on the internet, just download it, watch it, whatever. Like, ugh. Stupid Peacock. I hate Peacock.
I'd be hard pressed to disagree with any of these statements.
Yeah. God damn it.
All right.
Sorry.
So no, it's okay. So that's enough of our wrestling history stuff. Let's get into what we want to talk about from this last week in wrestling.
All right. Late breaking news. Aaron Judge is hurt and just got removed from the game. So one less screen to distract me, Joe. One less screen, but I'm very upset right now.
Who was he going to get drafted to?
Hopefully a better team than the Yankees, because he's fucking dog shit and team's dog shit, and I hate baseball and it's stupid. But anyways, that's for later on in the show. I'm going to talk about what I watched instead of LVAC, which, as you alluded to, was AIW Damn. And just a couple quick hits on this, but like some highlights. I want to say first things first. Once again, myself and Chuck Stone, we were robbed. I am not liking the fact that John Thorne seems to be stacking the deck against us. We're not, you can't just put us in a match that has like people cheating and or people that are better than us. I don't like it. We should be winning every match, but bulking season got robbed. The surprise opponents for the Bitcoin Boys was the triumphant return of the trademark name Army, which was Wes Barkley and Swoggle, which was a huge pop, obviously. Sadly, Wes and Swoggle didn't win the tag titles. Again, the Duke becomes a problem in another match, but we may see at some point in the next year Swoggle versus the Duke for the Haas boot. So I am looking forward to that. PME versus Euthanasia in a cage. Not only did Philly Collins show that he loves the business, like Philly was gushing like he was Wheeler Yuta. Like it looked like a fire hose coming from his face. But also referee and friend of the show, Tom Dunn, he also got color in the match. So that was pretty sweet. But finally, the main event, you have Josh Bishop, who also loves the business. He got busted open during the match.
Of course.
Versus Broski, Steph DeLander, and Fonzie. And, I joke around, Joe. I pretend to be a Broski apologist. But I assumed that this was going to be, kind of like we're running back the match we should have got at Absolution, and this is going to be Bishop getting his win over Broski. But shockingly, I was very shocked. Broski retained the AIW Absolute belt. So top to bottom, really fun show. Lots of bleeding. Fun cage match. Good show. And like I said, I stayed home. I just didn't want to travel for LVAC. Nothing against LVAC. But I watched that on Fight just so I can get my $8 worth every month.
Yep, I didn't get a chance to watch the full show, but I did watch, the heavy hitter matches. Broski and JB, Bitcoin Boys versus, what did you call them? The Trademark Nation Army?
The Trademark Name Army. That's actually what it says on the Chiron.
And I don't know if you got a chance to listen to The Card Is Going to Change this week with John Thorne. Him telling the story about how all that came to be is great. And in I would say one of the rarest moments, John spent a good chunk of the show extolling the virtues and putting over a young Arthur MacArthur.
Wow. What does Artie have on him?
Yeah, well, listen, John doesn't heap praise on people very often. And I know Artie gets a lot of shit from a lot of people, deserved or undeserved, what have you. But like I said, I think John was very complimentary to Artie this week in the podcast. And I thought that was, if Artie didn't get a chance to listen to it, I want everyone to know that happened,
Well, I mean, I was going to listen anyways, but it's getting moved up to the top of my queue now.
There you go. So let's talk about AEW this week. And hey, while I may not be a Roderick Strong guy, and I think we talked about him on the last week when we were saying who's someone that should be released from their World Wrestling Entertainment contracts.
Yeah.
Him showing up in AEW as a genuine surprise, did not get leaked by any side whatsoever. And him doing the run-in save there for Adam Cole with the Jericho Appreciation Society was a legitimately cool moment.
Yeah, because, last week we were under the impression that he was just, signed but not being used by WWE, correct?
Yep.
I felt like everybody was under the impression that he was still under contract, and we didn't hear anything about him getting released or his contract expiring, because I was under the impression that, right before Cole and O'Reilly left, he re-signed. That was what I had heard, So obviously, if that was true, then he had to have been released. But I was surprised. I'm more of an Undisputed Era mark than I am any of the parts, if that makes sense.
Right, Big Bobby Fish guy, I get you.
Yeah, no, cool Kyle, and but I like the presentation of the group. Roderick Strong coming in doesn't really do anything for me unless we also get Kyle soon. Hopefully he's getting better. But yeah, I was surprised, and I always pop for a little Kill Switch Engage. That's his theme song, I believe, right?
Yes.
All right. But yeah, no, I like that. It was cool. And like you said, the fact that it wasn't, being rumored on Twitter or the dirt sheets for weeks was something unique.
Absolutely. I thought that was really cool. I like I get things stooged off to me, but I like surprises.
Yeah, and have we found out since then, had he been released or did his contract end? Anything like that?
He ain't saying nothing. I'm assuming his contract quietly expired,
Okay. Maybe he signed a 1-year extension and it just ended or something.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you the powers that be just forgot he existed, at WWE.
They got a lot more going on than that, but
yeah.
There was a
thing. I'm not saying they forgot he existed he's bad or anything, because he's definitely not, but like you said, they so far under the radar, low on priorities, it's all right, the comings and goings of Roderick Strong isn't important. But did you see Stokely Hathaway's tweet after Roderick's debut? Yeah. It's just a gif. Is don't I know you from somewhere? But it's hey, Diamond Mine can be revived.
So it's one of those things where Roddy just kind of kept his mouth shut and kept things quiet, and then allowed his contract to expire, whatever it was. And I know there had been a story for the last 2 or 3 weeks where I don't know what their names are, their gimmicks are now, whatever the hell it is. I don't watch NXT no more. But the grizzled young vets were looking to get their release. And it was like the stories were they'd asked for their release, they got their release, then they were denied their release. And then Tuesday, both of them tweeted out saying that we asked for our release, we were denied our release, our contracts are up on October 13th. We look forward to, not being in WWE anymore, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, not a knock on the grizzled young vets, but I would do more to try to keep Roderick Strong than them if I was in charge of World Wrestling Entertainment. But again, Roddy kept his mouth shut, and they probably forgot. Where these guys, if they just kind of kept their mouth shut, it's 6 months. It's less than 6 months. I don't know. Just keep your head down, collect whatever pittance you get from being a NXT guy, and hope they forget about you come October.
Yeah, and on one hand, I think more people should take a lesson from Roderick Strong, not like a knock on WWE, but like if you want to jump ship somewhere, it's more impactful if you're not talking about every little comings and goings of your contract,
Yeah.
But also, grizzled young vets aren't exactly going to get a huge pop if they show up somewhere else come October.
At a UK AEW show, they might have.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right. For your own knowledge, I have actually two quick things to talk about this week. Two more things. So.
All right.
But I'm just this one's a real quick one, and just because I mentioned him in the previous talking point, but news broke right after we recorded last week, which seems to be the case. And a lot of times it's scooped and booped by other shows, but this one wasn't. This one made it all the way to Thursday. But everybody knows that the VCW champion, heavyweight champion of the world, is our friend the Boar. And this past week it was announced that on July 29th.
Oh my goodness.
A little toy boy Broski is coming to the territory. And I tried to put some feelers out to see what was going on with that. I think I got no-sold. I think I got kayfabed. But I'm going to speak it into a microphone so I can speak it into existence. I want to see the most toyetic man in wrestling versus Matt Cardona. That's right. I want to see the Boar defend his VCW Heavyweight Championship of the World against Matt Cardona. If this happens, not only does the Boar become the national wrestling superstar that he deserves to be, but we also get a Major Bendy, Joe. Then we get a Gummy Boar repaint Major Bendy. And then we might even get a big rubber guy. I'm all down for this. I think it's win for everybody. I tweeted it out. Broski saw it. He gave it a like. I think he's too scared of the Boar to say anything back about it. But again, I have no inside knowledge of anything. But the fact that Broski is sniffing around in the indie that our buddy the Boar is the champion of, I think it only makes sense that is the marquee matchup that pops the territory.
Well, I didn't get any word. Obviously we all had our opinions on how the Boar should be running his life and his career when it comes to the world of sports and entertainment. He won that title for the VCW, the only VCW that ever made money, on his own. And
I like to think I helped a little.
And with them bringing Broski and, again, Boar, he's the champion. He's the biggest baby face in the company. And when VCW rolled out their announcement for Broski, there's two sets of promo pics that they use. There's Smiling Broski and there's Mean Muggin' Broski. And they used Mean Muggin' Broski pictures. Mm-hmm. So, nothing official has been announced yet. But again, you say this into the public consciousness. I say this into the public consciousness. If it's announced that it's Broski versus the Boar in any way, shape, form, or whatever, that's your soon-to-be-named network meetup. I think all points of the greater northeastern area are going to be converging in Virginia on that night to cheer our good friend and boo Broski.
Well, 100%. I already told the board that I would be there if that happened, even if it's a tag match or some kind of three-way or something like that. How many times are you going to have that opportunity to have our worlds collide like that, you know?
Absolutely. But like I said, we're still 3 months away from that show even happening. But I'm throwing it out there to the rest of our listenership. If you're a fan of the dumb stuff that we talk about on the show, our feelings, both mine and Adam's on Broski. Boar is one of the best brothers around. Let's all meet up there, man. If it's Broski versus Boar, that's the biggie,
Yeah. And absolutely, like if you saw, I tweeted out probably last Friday, and it just basically, I wasn't attacking Broski. I was just saying, hey, congrats on the booking, but I suggest that maybe for your own well-being that you try to stay away from the Boar because he'll squash you. But, if you feel like tweeting something out, in support of the Boar at Broski, by all means, let him know that there's a toyetic mofo just waiting to stomp him down.
I know I have one unwieldy hashtag out there that hasn't gotten a much play. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I need to put together another one. I don't know if this VCW is on social media. I know they got a Facebook and a YouTube, but I don't know if they got no Twitter,
No, I did a journalism and they only do Facebook. Mm-hmm. Which is why it was very difficult for me to find information on this show and everything like that.
All right. I'll talk to the board this weekend and we'll figure out something.
All right. Perfect.
I'll just throw this out here as well. I liked the presentation on AEW this week of the friendship of Sammy Guevara and MJF. This has been the most effective and believable MJF has been as a heel in his entire run in AEW. He needs to act more like this, not shoot inside terms, not pandering to the crowd. He needs to be a jerk-off. Mm-hmm. And he needs to have that other person who's just as equally as a jerk-off and equally as unlikable and just turn their unlikableness up to 11. And not in a cool way where we cheer them, but in a way where we can't wait to see them get their comeuppance.
Yeah. No, I agree. It has been I don't want to say a different side of Max, but, a more palatable Max the last couple of weeks. And, credit for Max to elicit a heel reaction for Sammy Guevara.
Yes, credit to Max to elicit a reaction, period, for Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, plus the fact that Tay's been out there the last couple of weeks, at least to walk Sammy down to the ring, that has definitely been a plus. Yeah, he is the face of women's wrestling.
The face?
The face. I feel like it's been a while since we said that. We have to say it every once in a while or else we lose the trademark. Are you going to order a jar of MGF pickles, Joe?
No, I'm not a pickle guy.
Me neither. Maybe you could keep it mint in jar.
No.
Do pickles keep? I don't know.
They do. You pickle them and they stay for a long time.
Okay, some pickled pickles.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, my rare third thing I just want to mention is WWE's silly third world title. And that was announced on Monday Night Raw this past week. As far as the belt itself, I just want to say I think it looks stupid. That's purely subjective. I think it looks tiny. I think it looks too much like a shrunk down AEW belt, and I get it's trying to kind of elicit big gold but still be small. I don't know. I don't like how it looks. But what I dislike even more is the fact that it exists. Like, all right, we painted ourselves into the corner of having this big bad who can't be beat, which is awesome. I love Roman, and the fact that he has both belts. And this is much better detailed on Final Wrestling Place this week because they talked about their fears of a third world title being introduced. So go check that out. But, like, all right, we have 2 world championships on one guy, so we're just going to introduce a third one. But the other 2 still exist, and this one doesn't have lineage to the other 2, and we're not going to strip Roman of one of them. You have a company that now has 3 world titles which just doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure, Joe, predict this right now, that maybe not at next year's WrestleMania, but the year after, you're going to be a unification where there's all three of the belts are going to get unified. And then you're going to have three separate world titles with three separate world title lineages. It's just sloppy booking, in my opinion. I don't like it at all. And it's obviously a lot of people making the joke, it's Cody's title, it's the consolation prize, yada, yada. I don't like any of it.
It's definitely the second place title.
Yeah, third place, if you want to think about it, you know?
Right, okay, and yeah, so, you know, the Raw and the SmackDown, and that's what they essentially are, whether the Universal or the Undisputed, whatever the hell they're called, right? Roman carries around two belts, but for the last almost 1,000 days, he's been one champion. This is not preferred. I know Tim and Marcus on Final Wrestling Place were talking about this on Monday, that there was the rumor, the innuendo about this happening, and I didn't want to believe it. But then, like, I was, like, making up all these other scenarios in my head of what they could or should do. I don't like them adding another title. I had this on my list of things to talk about as well. But at least they're not stripping Roman of one of the titles. Like, even though they kind of are, they're not outright saying it until they decide to say that there's a lineage from one of the other two belts that now get attached to this belt, which I certainly hope they don't do, but I'm afraid that they're going to. And I know the whole gimmick is whatever show Roman gets drafted to, the other show will compete for this title.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was unveiled on Raw makes me believe that Roman's getting drafted to SmackDown. And I have a feeling that once this is all official and once this new champion is crowned at Night of Champions, which is a show I will not be watching because it's the Saudi blood oil money show, at that point, Roman will go to just carrying around one of the belts as opposed to two belts, in the hopes to cause less confusion than there already is with, as you said, Adam, there being three world titles.
Yeah. First of all, I don't like the idea of only having one belt because it's two different lineages and it just looks cooler having two belts.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to go to one belt, make a new one, and definitely don't go to the same belt designer that did the most recently unveiled one. Just keep the same design and maybe change the color. You know, instead of having a blue one or a red one or a blue or a black or whatever, have it be gold in the background. Make it look nice. Just an idea.
Or go to a classic design, like something that's not going to, you know what I mean? Like, bring back
the winged eagle.
Yeah, bring back the winged eagle. Bring back, like, the green one with all, like, the funky plates on it that Hogan held the first time in '84. You know, something that looks cool and classic. Like, not everything needs to be black and silver and, you know, modern. Like, have it look different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even like something, you know, actual big gold would be like a step up over the one that was introduced on Monday.
Yeah, there's discussion that can't be used for whatever reason, because the likeness of it, and the rights to it, or whatever the hell it is, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right.
Well, we're talking about this, and you know, as we discuss and as we record, and as many of you may be listening to this. WWE is doing another draft this upcoming Friday. Adam and I had toyed with the idea of doing something similar, just to kind of see how we would tackle what the WWE has to tackle this week, in the hopes of making two distinctly different brands, trying to do something to set one apart from the other. They're doing 10 picks for each show on SmackDown this week. They're doing 10 picks for each show on Raw this week. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, the supplemental draft.
Yeah. where most of the talent finds out where their shoot going to be working.
Exactly. So Adam and I are going to have a little fun. I didn't realize that it was SmackDown first and then Raw, but I did acquiesce beforehand to allow Adam to have the first pick.
You make that sound like I campaigned for it.
No, I listen. You asked me, what do you want? And I said, I was going to let you go first, right?
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, I'm acquiescing. I'm giving up. You know, I'm opting to go second.
Okay, fair enough.
After you gave me the choice, I could have said, I want to go first, fucker. You know?
Yeah.
And
What kind of jerk would do that?
Draft King, excuse me.
The Draft Show King, all hail.
Draft Show King, excuse me.
Yes.
Now, again, of course, just like World Wrestling Entertainment drafting, you could draft tag teams together as one pick.
Mm-hmm.
You could draft a stable together as one pick. Like if Adam wanted to pick the Judgment Day, he can't say like, well, I want the Judgment Day, but I don't want Rhea. Well, that doesn't count as one pick now. Like you're drafting a stable like everyone or nothing, right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, like the New Day got drafted and they left behind Big E.
Okay.
So like if you want the entire, I'm not saying I don't want the Judgment Day, whatever. But like if you said I want all of the Judgment Day, that's a valid thing. If you said I just want Dominic Mysterio, that's valid. You could say I want Dominic and Damian Priest as a tag team. That's valid. Like I think they're all valid options. Just leaving it on the table.
All right.
I don't think it's going to come into play, at least not for my picks.
Right.
But
who knows?
We'll see. You might take my game plan here and might throw the whole thing in upheaval. But Joe, I have to tell you, the pick is in.
No, we're not doing the music every time.
I'm doing it again. No. All right.
Unless you want to edit the show and put that in every time.
No, I was doing it just by a joke. But with the first pick, and I am Monday Night Raw, correct? So Monday Night Raw selects the $1 Million megastar from Hagerstown, Maryland, LA Knight.
You son of a bitch. I was afraid you were going to do that so that's a spite pick. But that's a spite pick on you. That's going to bite you in the ass. You know what I mean?
We'll see.
All right. So as SmackDown, as my first pick, I pick Roman with Paul Heyman.
Okay. Yeah, I still don't know how. I'm just going to take Roman off my board. See, if I had taken Roman, I would have just taken the Bloodline.
Right. So I can do without the Bloodline. We'll deal with the Bloodline later. If we have to.
All right. So I have already selected a top male performer. Mm-hmm. So I need a top female performer, Joe. Okay. And I'm just going to pick one at random. Can really be anybody. I'm going to take Alexa Bliss.
I'm glad you're taking this very seriously.
What? I am. She's a multiple-time women's champion. Are you saying that selecting a woman on your brand is not taking it seriously, Joe? Do you want to get canceled?
Please. I could deal with a break in my life. Please cancel me over this.
All right.
So for my second pick, I am going to pick the tag team champions of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
Okay. Yeah, if I didn't waste a pick on LA Knight, I could have taken them. I am going to take the trio along with the Intercontinental title of Imperium.
Mm-hmm.
Not taking it seriously. Walter's
no, you're not.
How am I not?
So to combat you with that, I am going to take the trio, I guess, of the LWO of Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, and he's always Raul Mendoza to me, but Cruz del Toro.
205 and Live, yeah.
Right. I want 205 and Live on my show for my third pick.
Are you taking Zelina with him?
Sure.
All right, I'm just making sure. See?
She's part of the act, right?
You're not taking this seriously, Joe.
Oh, my goodness.
I need to take next, again, top babyface to maybe feud with my number one heel. I am going to take Otis with Maxine Dupree.
That hurts a couple picks.
See, I'm winning.
All right. So for my next pick, I am going to take Bianca Belair.
Oh, that was my next pick.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Delete this. I guess I will take Becky Lynch.
Okay. My next pick, I'm going to take Montez Ford. Just Montez Ford.
Okay. All right. I like that. You know what? I need a giant attraction for my brand. I'm going to take Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
Your sixth pick.
My sixth pick. Okay. For my sixth pick, I am going to take Bailey.
All right. Joe, I feel like I am all for diversity and inclusion. I want to have a strong female division. I'm going to go with Cora Jade.
Main event, Cora Jade.
Yep.
All right. So we are going to go and we are going to dip into NXT.
Yeah, I mean,
I know I mentioned last week, of course, I wanted to see them get released, but not if I'm trying to build my brand. I want Brutus and Julius, the Creed brothers.
Okay. Not on my draft list, but all right. Not bad. I'm going to take just Finn Balor.
I had just Finn on my list as well.
My pick.
So my next pick, I'm going to take the Viper, Randy Orton.
Oh, waste of a pick.
No way, baby. Randy Orton versus Roman is one of the only matchups that Roman hasn't had. He's one of the only big name guys that Roman hasn't had a program with.
All right. I'm going to take, since I don't have the bloodline, but I will take the Usos with Solo.
Okay. Okay, then what do I got 2 more picks left?
Yep, that was my 9th.
Okay. So for my next pick, again, I'm building more of a tag team show here. So also from NXT, I'm going to take Pretty Deadly.
Okay. You had me a little worried there because you kept mentioning NXT, and my final pick is also from NXT. I am taking Chase U, Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, and Thea Hale.
They were on my list as a group as well. It was between them and the LWO folks.
Yeah, I was worried because those guys, those were on my draft list from the very start, and I just assumed they would be there at the end for me.
And as my last pick, I'm taking Bronson Reed.
He's also on my list. He could have easily gone in there if I didn't take the Usos and Solo. All right, that's not bad. Can I just say we didn't agree to this or anything like that, and it doesn't mean anything, but I have also selected my announce team.
Okay.
It's Kayla Braxton, Kathy Kelly, and Mackenzie Mitchell.
Raw is going to be the Grease show. How did what's-her-face with the fucking Rose not get picked this high on the list?
Gigi's at risk of maybe getting knocked out of the Adam Van Special top 10. There might be some upheaval.
Gotcha. But yeah, so I'm just happy nobody picked Cody.
And how would me picking LA Knight bite me in my ass? Like, when did that happen? Me not getting Roman? Was that your mindset?
You don't know LA Knight like I know LA Knight. That was a spite pick, so I couldn't take LA Knight, is what that was.
That is true. I just assumed you would retaliate with a spite pick and take Alexa Bliss, and then we would have just had a trade.
I want no trades. I want a good show. Good luck. When LA Knight asks for his release.
Well, I'll just say this. Let's just go ahead and go down our roster real quick, and I will send out a tweet from the show account tomorrow asking who has the better roster.
Yeah, my thought is, when my SmackDown rolls into town and the big semi truck pulls in, and you see these faces on the side of the truck, or they put up the posters that SmackDown's coming to whatever the hell the what's it called here, the Mohegan Sun Arena here in Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah,
and they put that poster up. Are you going to go see the people that are on the Raw poster, or are you going to go see the people that are on the SmackDown poster?
Yeah. All right. So my roster is LA Knight, Alexa Bliss, Imperium, which is Walter and his two friends, Otis with Maxine Dupree, Becky Lynch, Brock Lesnar, Cora Jade, Finn Balor, the Usos and Solo, and Chase U, Andre Chase, Thea Hale, and Duke Hudson.
And then on my end, it's Roman and Paul Heyman, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, the three members of the LWO with Selena Vega, Bianca Belair, Montez Ford, Bayley, the Creed brothers, Randy Orton, Pretty Deadly, and Bronson Reed.
All right. Do me a favor. I assume you have those written down. Just take a picture of it and send it to me so I can have them tomorrow.
My handwriting may not be the best, but absolutely.
I'll figure it out. And in case you were wondering, the Steelers traded up to the 14th pick and took a guy named Broderick Jones. I don't know who that is. I don't know college football, but
I don't know the Steelers either. So good luck to them. Hopefully this year they have a football team.
They do have a team, as far as I know. Unless a plane goes down, they're going to have a team.
Did I mention this on After Dark that they should do it? Oh no, we've talked about it here. Where with baseball, that they should take a team like whoever does the worst, they should bust them down to the minors and bring up like a AAA team to be in the majors.
Yeah.
They should do that where they send a team to the XFL. Like whoever the worst team in the NFL is, you have to go play in the XFL for a year.
Man, there's going to be a lot of Cleveland Browns fans watching XFL games.
Oh my God. Luckily, none of them listen to this show.
Yeah. Man, if there were Cleveland fans, like Cleveland Brown fans or Cleveland Guardians fans that listen to this show, I'd be in some deep trouble. I'd get a lot of heat.
You certainly would.
Thank God they don't listen.
Go ahead.
Nothing, I just said anyways.
All right, so obviously the homework that Adam assigned, which was the Marine 5 Battleground, starring Mike the Miz, Maurice, Oh Baby Heath Slater, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel. We'll be discussing that on the Patreon this week, of course. 100%. And then what I'm assigning for homework this week would be the Monday Nitro, January 24th, 2000, from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. Now, again, I can't read the entire card because I don't want to give everything away.
Sure.
But I will say this. What we were advertised on the previous Nitro, Thunder, and WCW Saturday Night was we were going to get Sid Vicious taking on Double J Jeff Jarrett. And if Sid wins that match, he then goes on to face Kevin Nash for the vacant WCW World Heavyweight title.
All right. Well, it's very unlike WCW to promise one thing and not deliver it. I don't like that.
And again, I can't give you the match listing of what happens because let's just say that doesn't happen.
All right.
But that'll be for next week on the Patreon.
Absolutely. And also coming in just a couple days to Patreon, the most recent or the newest episode of Vintage at Odds. And Joe, just to kind of give you a snapshot of where we were in this era of time, two of the big talking points from this episode was Brie Bella kicking the head off of Liv Morgan. Do you remember that when she was doing the yes kicks and she knocked the shit out of Liv Morgan?
Vaguely.
It was like a big save. It might be the rookie appearance of Safety Police. And the other thing is we do a very deep dive into the potential, of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega signing with NXT. Because we are post the original All Out, but prior to the announcement of All Elite Wrestling. So that was when that was all the scuttlebutt about where they were going to be. And some of your and my takes on what we would think of them going to the WWE/NXT.
Interesting.
So that'll be available on the 1st.
I like being reminded that I spoke into a microphone and have absolutely no memory of what I said.
Oh, same. Like I'm learning it, or I'm re-experiencing it with everybody else as I edit out all the ums and ahs. And we should also plug one more time your upcoming interview with Derek Sabato.
Yes, I got a chance to record that with Derek. It'll be going up on the Patreon here shortly, in the next week or so, I think, just so that you're not inundated with content over there. But I thought it was really good. We talk about our memories of professional wrestling and having and obviously I come from I approach wrestling a little bit differently. I listened to Brian Meyer's Extreme Conversation with Raven that he recorded out in Oshkosh, Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. And Raven laments of when he first got into the business, and he would go up to the old timers and he would mark out for oh, don't you remember when this happened and that happened and this happened? And they would say no. And now Raven has become one of those guys where people remember all these things that he did so fondly and he has no memory of them whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then he vividly remembers the one time when he and his family were living in Minneapolis and he cried so his dad took him to wrestling. And he remembers what restaurant they went to and what he had to eat and all this other stuff. It's just funny what Derek remembers and what Derek doesn't remember is all I'll say.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing that. And if that Extreme Conversation somehow ends up in my email inbox, that'd be awesome too.
We'll talk, pal.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's get into phone calls.
Let's do it.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Adam. It's Jayhawk. I have a quick question for you guys. So on Monday, I have a doctor's appointment. I have to have a couple of tests run. Don't think it's anything serious, but need to get a couple of things checked out. And I'm expecting that I'm probably going to be in the waiting room a little longer than I would like to be. I'm going to need something to kill time, and I don't necessarily want to just play on my phone while I'm in the waiting room. I'm wondering if you guys have any suggestions of good books I could read while I'm waiting. They can be wrestling books, they can be fiction, they can be autobiographies, they can be nonfiction, they can be pretty much whatever. Just something that might kill a couple hours while I'm sitting in a waiting room, waiting on God knows what they're going to do to me. That's pretty much it, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
Well, I want to preface this by saying I hope everything's well, Jayhawk, and that it's just they're just grabbing your nuts and telling you to turn your head and cough. But
oh my goodness!
So I hope all is well. I will say one of the best things you can read on the internet is the write-ups that are on the atoddswrestling.com and our Patreon. There's a lot of interesting things you can read there, so go check that out. But I always sound like a big dummy when I say this. I went to a very good high school. I went to a very good college. I have a degree, but I don't read things. So I always feel like such an idiot when I say that it's probably been 3 years since I read something, like an actual book, something other than a fantasy baseball write-up or a Twitter feed. So I feel bad deferring to you on this, Joe.
Okay. Well, obviously, hopefully it's nothing serious at the doctor. But I always say going to a doctor is a dead-end street.
That's why I don't go.
Right. Why I don't go either. And I could recommend every wrestling book in the world. But I'm sure Jayhawk's the kind of guy who's pretty much read every wrestling book there is. And again, I don't want to gauge his interests and so forth, but this is kind of an old book, and I know true crime is a hot thing right now when it comes to podcasts. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite books that I read, and it's old, and again, I'm old, so it's old. It's a book entitled The Last Victim, A True Life Journey into the Mind of a Serial Killer. The author's name is Jason Moss. Essentially what he did as his college project was, at the time, he wrote to every serial killer that was currently in lockup and still alive. Your Ted Bundys, your Charles Mansons, your John Wayne Gacy's, your everyone's, right?
Wow.
Just to kind of see what they would do. Would they write back? How would they write back? And so on and so forth. And it's very interesting to see how that all plays out. It's It's a nonfiction book, so these events actually did happen. But it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay. That definitely does sound interesting. Like I said, I'm not a book guy, but that's definitely a good premise.
Yes. And I will say that they have made that premise into a movie. Avoid the movie at all costs.
Okay. Like based on the book or just somebody just ripping it off whole cloth?
Based on the book. And the movie is real bad.
Huh. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Jayhawk.
Next call.
Hello, gentlemen. Kevin here. Late at night, Thursday, getting ready to stay up, listen to you guys. Just listen to the Patreon show. For those of you who can't stay up, download it first thing Friday morning. Subscribe. Anyways, so new WWE title debuted. Triple H brought out. I like it. It's just, the WCW big gold belt with WWE logo on it. I'm cool with it. We're going to get a new champion. Yay. I've hated Roman having both belts. I don't like the Usos having both belts. I like having a lot of titles. I don't know if I'm in the majority or minority, but I'm glad we're going to have a champion on each show, even though one's part-time. However, I can see people, Cody should win this. Cody should win this. Hey, I see your point. I get it. No, he shouldn't. Because the whole story that we were given that still has not paid off, Cody wants to win the title his dad never did. That's not a brand new title. It's not even a universal title. It's one of the titles, I don't know if it's red or blue one at this point, but one of the titles that Roman has is the one that officially has the lineage back to Buddy Rogers in WWF. That's the one Cody is supposed to win. Him just being a world champion is not the story. And I said before, I feel insulted by the story there and Night After Mania and stuff like that. I'm taking my time to enjoy a story. The story has no payoff, or if you just swerve things for no good reason, I'm going to stop reading, listening, watching the story. But am I just being all hung up over a title? Do titles really matter? Does lineage really matter anymore? Does it matter to you guys at all? That's my question. Looking forward to the show. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
I think I touched on a lot of that earlier. Like, lineage does matter to me. Like, I like when they say, like, this belt dates back to whatever. Like, when we were preparing, or when I was preparing for our little draft, I was on WWE's website, and I ended up finding myself going to the title history page and just kind of seeing, like, if the Universal is, like, linked somehow to the WCW belt, and, like, did they just end the lineage of the big gold and that kind of stuff. So it had me thinking about that. So lineage does matter to me, but I can absolutely see Cody winning this new belt and that, quote unquote, finishing the story, because at the end of the day, it is a WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and that's really all that's going to matter to, like, 90% of WWE fans. So, like, while that might bother Kevin, I wouldn't be bothered by that, because at the end of the day, it is a WWE belt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and, like, I guess I get where Kevin's coming from. Obviously, and this will Cody... The story will be what the story will be. If they decide to tell us that Cody winning this belt is him finishing the story of his father, then it is. Whether we want to believe it or not, if that's what they decide to tell us on TV, then that's what it is, until they tell us it's not. Which I have a feeling is what it's going to be. That Cody, they cannot downplay and undersell this new title immediately out of the block. As Adam mentioned at next year's WrestleMania, at the following year's WrestleMania, where they decide to combine all three titles into one, which is obviously going to happen,
At some point. Yeah.
At some point, they can't bury this title out of the blocks. They got to let Cody treat this as the big thing so that we actually do care. And then when they tell us that it doesn't matter, then it won't matter, which will inevitably happen.
And the more I think about it, this belt and this design does just kind of look right being held by somebody wearing a suit. because it's got that old-timey look to it. It looks more like the NWA belt or, the old Big Gold or something like that. So, like, the giant oversized W belt doesn't look right on a guy wearing a suit, if that makes sense. But
sure.
I don't know, just picture it in my head.
And then, obviously we get to the, you say it looks good on a guy in a suit.
It just, holding it under his arm, or on his arm. That look.
Right.
Like,
was this the belt that Nick Aldis was supposed to win if WWE wasn't under a hiring freeze right now?
You got to settle for Impact, a close second place.
That's right, a close second to the secondary title.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the call, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next call.
Hey there, Joe, Adam. It's the other JB here. Thank you for your recommendations about Chris Jericho, Cruiserweight, WCW last week. I appreciate those. Those were fun. Diamond Dallas Page. Thanks.
Short and to the point. It's almost like a man who called right before the cutoff.
He saw the clock hit the second hand getting close to 9 o'clock,
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of something to insult him about, but at this point, how much more bad things can I say about Jungle Boy?
Well, listen, he's gonna get his 4-way main event at the pay-per-view, and that's the most important thing,
That is true. I will say I'll take the L on this. Last week I was complaining that the 4-way was what I wanted, and I wasn't getting it, and it's clear that is what we're gonna get. So I take everything back bad I said, but I don't know. DDP, Joe, you're the one in charge of these.
DDP. So I'll throw you an oddball and say whatever the WrestleMania was where DDP beat Christian for the European title. Is it a good match? Is it a great match? No, but it's DDP's only real moment in WWF.
It's WrestleMania 18, according to Wikipedia, the most trusted source of all wrestling news and information.
There you go. Do we have the 2-match series with Macho Man on pay-per-view that are great?
Yeah.
You have the match where DDP dresses up as La Parka on Nitro to take on Macho Man.
Okay.
You have the pay-per-view matches with Raven, which would have been like Spring Stampede and Uncensored 98, I think. But the biggie is the Halloween Havoc 98 match with Goldberg. Say what you will, and the match that Goldberg has where he beats Raven for the U.S. title is like a 5-minute like dog and pony Raven show.
Mm-hmm.
The match that he has with Hogan to win the world title at the Georgia Dome is a glorified squash. And the match with DDP is like the first almost like real match that goes longer than like 10 minutes that Goldberg has in his entire WCW career up to that point. And
so I was going to say, is that before or after his match with Regal?
Way after. Like, we talked about the Regal match here.
Yeah.
That the Regal match would have happened, like, let's say, like, late February, early March. And that was less of a match and more of a miscommunication between all parties involved.
Yeah.
But again, DDP versus Goldberg is the main event of Halloween Havoc 98. It's for the world title. And, many people could argue, like, should DDP have won the world title there? And no, Goldberg was still really hot. Should DDP have won the title or gotten another match with Goldberg? Yes, because this match was really good. But yeah, the Macho Man stuff, the Goldberg match from Halloween Havoc 98, and the Christian match from WrestleMania 19.
All right. I co-signed. Those are all the things I was going to say.
Oh, right.
Joe beat me to it,
We are on screen share. I'm just reading Adam's notes,
Yeah. It's all on the whiteboard.
Okay. So it's pink button time.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. I think it's just a fact of life that even wrestlers you loathe and hate will eventually, if they're around long enough, you'll find something of them that, like, you like, right? Because today, I know what Joe saw for sure. That video of Jeff Jarrett training Zach Gallen with the guitar. Might be the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. Zach Gallen tries to get away. And Jeff Jarrett fucking jukes him. He's got one leg. And then fucking
You're gonna be all right, Ed.
Hey, bye.
I'm just glad that Ed is on board for Double J. Did you understand a single thing that he said?
I understood he was referring to Double J hitting Zach Gowen with the guitar, which I did see all over Twitter, which was just basically your tweet like 5 times.
Right, I think what Ed was very focused on, that Double J was taunting him on one leg, and then, like, juked him while on one leg, you know?
Yeah.
And Jarrett is wearing, like, a fantastic fit of white jeans, cowboy boots, and a red and yellow tie-dyed shirt. But there are wrestlers that I despise and hate that have done cool things that have gotten me to come around on them. And I would say, Punk is one of them. I thought the pipe bomb stuff was really bad and lame and business exposing. And I know that's what got a lot of people into wrestling again. But I thought the heel turn of Punk with him and Heyman together, like that last 6 months of his title run leading up to the match with Undertaker, I thought was some of the best work of Punk's career. And that kind of really made me turn a corner on him. While I try to think of someone else who I hate who did something cool that I'm like, they got me, you know? You got anyone like that?
Not really, not off the top of my head. I was just going to chime in that run of CM Punk, I might have appreciated the pipe bomb more than you, but that wasn't what made me a fan. But it was the Paul Heyman run for me as well. You know, and it was just the 434-day reign, which I do have like an autographed plaque that says that. It's autographed by Punk and Heyman, so I was a huge fan of that run. But I feel like unless somebody's canceled, I don't have like these bloodlust like feuds with that you do. You know, like.
I'm just trying to think if there's anyone that like I really despised. So you know what? Okay, and I can safely admit this. We were taught growing up, whether you were a reader of the Aftermags or an online wrestling fan or a Wrestling Observer fan or whatever it was, you were taught to hate Dusty Rhodes.
Okay. Why is that?
You would just always critique everything that Dusty would do. He was the worst. His booking was terrible. The Dusty finish. Everything was about him putting himself over and all those other things. And then when you go back and you look at everything that Dusty did, whether it be stuff in Florida from the 70s or stuff that he did in Crockett in the 80s or even his polka dot run in WWF, or the stuff when he comes back and he teams with Dustin to take on the Stud Stable, or the feud that he has in ECW with Steve Corino. All that stuff is really goddamn cool. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until like way, late in like the mid 2000s, let's say, where I came around and became a Dusty Rhodes fan. And it wasn't any one thing, but it was just like me not letting every other piece of media shape my opinion of Dusty Rhodes.
Why was there such an agenda to bury Dusty at the time?
I don't know. It's just the magazines and the online community and the dirt sheets just decided like Dusty's bad and we're going to do everything in our power to run his name through the mud.
Gotcha. All right. I didn't know if there was like some kind of concerted effort that came out later, you know?
Yeah. And again, I don't know if it was any one thing. there's people that'll claim like the Dusty finish ruined TV wrestling, or, he booked Crockett out of business and the polka dot stuff sucked, and, a million different excuses that they'll throw out. But like I said, I defy you. Go back and watch Dusty's WWE run. Go back and watch any of that stuff now, and it was awesome.
Okay, cool. Is that it for Matt, or does he call?
No, he does call back one more time.
Okay.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. Hey, Joe, you know how you said I could get press passes to Impact by showing up and like yelling through the door your name at Brian Myers? So my friend thinks that'll just get me arrested. So I don't know how that'll work. What do you have any other suggestions? Because I don't want to go to jail again. Bye.
I think Ed would do great in jail, don't you?
I think after a day or two of uncomfortableness, he would thrive. Like, he would eventually be running, like, I don't want to say a gang, but definitely a small business.
So I could be a jerk, right? And say to Ed, I've only been asking for 3 weeks now for him to send me the copy of Hayabusa so I can put it on my MP3 player, right?
Yeah.
And he even asked for my email, and I gave him a link to the Dropbox and everything else like that, and he still hasn't done it.
That doesn't sound like a guy who needs a favor done for him.
And I could be a dick and say, I'm going to hold this over your head until you give me this information. But that's not the sort of guy I am, okay? So if I'm looking here, it looks like they are coming to Columbus June 9th and 10th is what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
So obviously if I go and I'm at impact.com, okay? If I go to the bottom of impact.com, okay, there's a thing there that says media inquiries. And it says for media inquiries, including interviews with talent, please send an email here. And then they even give you a thing that says, submit this request, but it does not guarantee you a seat, but we will contact you closer to the event date. So I don't know Ed's email address, but if he was to email me the copy of Hayabusa, I could just reply to him with this link that he could very easily just get to himself by going to impact.com/2019/09/media-inquiries/ and fill out the form himself, putting in the information about the highly successful podcast called Hayabusa that he does, and they will probably send him at least one free ticket for each of those two shows.
100%. Because I'm sure you've seen in the major group that if you want tickets to these shows, like just to go, you literally just have to like comment in a thread, hey, I'd like tickets, and Brian puts you on a list. So I feel like they definitely are giving away a lot of these tickets. I don't know, because Ed doesn't talk to me, like Ed talks to you, and the only time I hear from Ed is on this podcast because he doesn't really like me. Like, does he want to like interview people, or does he just want to go?
He just wants to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could probably just, like you said, just say you're a podcast, which in Ed's case is almost true.
Almost true.
At least once a month it is.
It would be better if it wasn't like a Spotify exclusive. But listen, I'm not here to tell Ed how to do his business, you know?
Yeah, because what happens if like Scott D'Amore is like, you know what? I'm going to give this guy tickets to the show as long as I can find him on my trusty podcatcher. So let me just open up my iPhone or open up my Android. Oh, wait, I can't seem to find it. Oh, this guy must be lying to me. Let's ban him forever. That's probably what's going to happen.
And I would bet that Robert Evans and Jimmy Jacobs would probably enjoy Hayabusa. That seems like humor that's right up their alley, you know?
Yeah, if not for R.D. Evans and Jimmy Jacobs, noted disdain for Spotify. Like, they've gone on record multiple times in the past, you know?
If you search R.D. Evans and Spotify, you'll see lots of negative remarks, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not the way to go, Ed. It's not the way to go. I think you definitely need to get that shit up in other places. And then as far as getting tickets to Impact, just ask.
Right. And like I said, as if Ed doesn't do this, when it gets closer to the date and Brian puts the thing up in the Facebook group and says, hey, if you just put your name in here, I'll have your name on the list for the show. I'm going to put Ed's name on there.
Yeah, because what we've learned over the last couple of weeks, they certainly don't cross-check any names in that group.
Nope.
So, yeah, that would be definitely one way to go. Although I will say that I don't know if Brian threatened it. Yeah, I think he might have threatened it. That if I put you on the list and you don't show up, he's going to be pissed. So Ed's also a risk to flake out and not show up. But he wouldn't be mad at you, so that's okay.
That's okay. I would burn my relationship with Brian to try to get Ed into that show.
You know what, Ed? If it doesn't work out with Joe and his relationship with Brian, let me know and I'll reach out to my close personal friend Broski.
Oh my God! Hope you don't like having money, Ed.
All right. Is that it for voicemail?
Yeah, that's it for voicemail.
All right. I couldn't help but notice on the email that you sent me earlier this morning, as well as on the screen you just had up, you have the list of the next season of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah. So the next season of Dark Side of the Ring begins May 30th, which is a Wednesday. So, we'll be able to kind of day and date talk about them because we record the day after. And now a lot of people are saying that this list is different than the initial list that went out a couple months ago. So people were saying that they're going to do either something got bumped to season 5 or they're doing season 4 in 2 parts. These are the first 10 episodes. Then they're going to release the next set of episodes. But looking at the list of things that we have, they're doing episodes on Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch, Magnum TA, Adrian Adonis, Marty Jannetty, Doink the Clown, and I'm going to guess they specifically mean Matt Bourne, Doink the Clown, Junkyard Dog, Bam Bam Bigelow, Abdul the Butcher, Bash at the Beach 2000, and the Graham family. Any of those strike your fancy, Adam? Any of those interest you? Any of those you can't wait for?
Honestly, it's very much on brand for me that it's going to be the more modern of the people. Candido and Tammy, I think, is one that I'm definitely looking forward to. Marty Jannetty, Bam Bam, Bash at the Beach are kind of at the top of my list. Maybe Abdullah the Butcher. But, for me, Junkyard Dog, Adrian Adonis, Magnum TA, those don't really do anything for me. But I've said that before about Dark Side of the Ring episodes when they're announced, and then I end up liking them after the fact. So, it really means nothing if I'm not initially appealed by them.
So let's see how dark they go on the Marty Jannetty stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is to get as dark as they can in the Marty Jannetty stuff, they've also got to implicate his partner at that time when he was doing a lot of this stuff pre-1992.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Vice is going to want to run Shawn Michaels' name through the mud. The Adrian Adonis one, I think, is going to shock you. The JYD one, especially the end of his life, is going to shock you, I think. The Matt Bourne one is going to shock you. And I think the Graham family one, you going in with no expectations, I'm not going to give away all of that.
Yeah,
I'm only going to say it's Von Erich-esque.
Okay, so everything works out for everybody.
Yep.
So lots of interviews with living members of that family, lots of talking heads. All right, fair enough.
Yep.
I'm just happy that Dark Side of the Ring is coming back because I don't have my finger on the pulse of it, but I always thought Tales from the Territories kind of replaced it, you know?
That's what I was led to believe as well. The two guys that do the Dark Side of the Ring stuff more or less said that. So I'm glad that plans changed, pal.
Yeah, because I watched an episode and a half of Tales from the Territory, and that wasn't for me. And I tapped out very quickly.
Mm-hmm. No, they were good. You know, obviously, like I said, I talk a bunch of... This will be like the 40th time I bring up the AWA one, where Jim Brunzell just casually says that he was the locker room drug dealer.
Yeah.
And Ken Patera tells his side of the story of what happened that night where he threw a rock through the window at the McDonald's, and he and Mr. Saito went to jail for 2 years. And he tells his side of the story, and every single other person on the round table, to a person, calls him a liar to his face.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's your thing. You know, old guys telling old wrestling stories doesn't appeal to me.
Look, an old man's talking. He's talking about wrestling. Let's go listen. You know, that's me.
Yeah, no thanks.
I'm trying to think. Okay. Hey, at oddswrestling.com. That's one-stop shop for all the stuff for the show, right?
Hunter, it's still there. Last I checked, I paid for the year.
You got the Patreon that you could find there. You got episodes of this show. And, of course, you could find our eBay affiliate link. When you click on links to various merchants on this site and make a purchase, this can result in the site earning a commission. Affiliate programs and affiliations include, but are not limited to, the eBay Partner Network.
Yeah. One of these days, we're going to get a payout from that, right?
Well,
they're holding it for a year.
So, again, they don't pay out until it hits $10.
All
and
right.
Our first month only hit $8.
Son of a bitch.
Right. So they're sitting on it until the next month, where it rolls through as over $10.
All right. I think, Derek, who's listening to the show, you need to step up your card buying, because right now it's relatively mid. You're kind of an amateur.
Right. Look at all these people that are being drafted tonight. Go buy their rookie cards.
That is true. He's a fan of, well, Derek's one of those guys that is a fan of multiple teams. You know those people?
Yeah. Like I have my first favorite team, my second favorite team, my third favorite. No, you have your favorite team and that's it. Even as a non-sports person, come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And hey, go make some purchases through our TeePublic store. The 35% sale is going on now. It's always linked up in all the show notes. Get designs inspired by this show, Longbox Heroes After Dark, Final Wrestling Place, the soon-to-be-named network itself. And you can get those on shirts, to cell phone covers, to notebooks, to all sorts of shit.
Yeah, I was actually kicking around TeePublic last night looking at stuff because I'm trying to replace a T-shirt that I really like that is not in print. So I was hoping there would be a bootleg of it up there. There were some close ones, but mine's too big. I needed a smaller size. But
gotcha.
Lots of cool stuff on TeePublic. But you know where there's also cool stuff, Joe? On these podcasts. And those podcasts include Longbox Heroes After Dark, Final Wrestling Place, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Viewer's Choice, Wrestling Cheers, Wings on Wings, Hayabusa, and be sure to check out my interview along with my partner Chuck Stone on this week's Indie Wrestling Guide.
All right.
What?
I think we plugged that at the beginning of the show and in the middle of the show. Enough.
I'm on the show, so I'm going to plug it a bunch.
All right.
Come on, man. Anyways, let's get on to the best part of the show.
Some might cost a little. Some might cost a lot. But I'm the $100 Vansky. And your figures will be bought.
All right, Joe. We're going to go long. Did you buy a bunch of things this week?
No, nothing. You know what? Okay, so If you listen to After Dark this week, I had to go and buy myself some new underwears.
Yeah.
Go listen to After Dark this week for more on that.
Yeah, keep that over on that show.
Right. And I did, and again, I don't buy stuff for me because I don't know, I don't need anything. But I'll tell this as quickly as I can. My kid has the Oculus. Do you know what the Oculus is? The VR thing, right?
Yep.
And you got the headset, and you got your two little hand things, right? And one of the thumbsticks was drifting a bit. So I was looking up online what you have to do with it, looking up how much it would cost to just buy him a new one. And just one of those goddamn controllers is $125.
And how many controllers are there? Is there two or is there one?
Two. Well, okay, for 120. So, okay, it comes with two controllers in the headset. That whole thing was like $400 and some odd dollars.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, if you want a replacement of just one of the hand sticks, a right or a left, it's $125 for one or the other. Like you could buy the bundle of the two of them together for $200, but if you just want one, it's $125. Anyway, so I'm watching videos on like how to repair and replace parts on it, and I'm like, okay, I could do this. So I buy the replacement kit thing, which was like $12. And it comes with like all these little parts and a little tiny screwdriver and all this other shit. So I'm watching the video on how to replace the thumbstick. And like, you have to like take the battery out. You have to peel the sticker off of where the battery goes. There's 3 little tiny screws that you need to take out there. And they recommend that you like on a piece of paper, draw a diagram of what the controller looks like. And then put each little tiny screw on the mock-up of the controller that you did so you remember where they all go back in. Then once you get the face of the joystick off, there's 7 more tiny... What? Yeah, the face. Thank you. There's 7 more tiny screws that you need to take out as well. And I'm like, okay, we're like 10 tiny screws into this, and this is already like way above my thing. Like, I'm going to fuck this up, and I'm going to have to spend the $125 because I screwed up, and I have to get my kid the thing. Very long story short, I watched the other one of how to like repair what you have, and it's, you know, not as many screws involved. You still have to take the face off the controller.
The face, and get to where you can get to just the little joystick itself, and you take the part off the joystick that your thumb would go on, and there's like the little stick that has like the ball joint and a spring on it. Well, it turns out that spring was like folded over. Okay. So all I had to do was just like unfold the spring, give it like a little contact cleaner spray, swirl it around, and put everything back together, and it works like new. All right. Well, that worked out. $12, right?
12. So if he does break it again, I do have the replacement parts and the you know, the little screwdriver and all the other shit to put the like new thumbstick you know, pad thing in there.
Thingamabob, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And just speaking of Long Box Heroes After Dark, listening to it in the correct listening order, just a tease that coming soon, possibly another Joe Burner account, but one you might not want to follow.
Allegedly. It might already exist. You don't know.
Exactly. It's like Ed's OnlyFans.
So, side note. Okay.
Yeah.
So remember last week on the pod when Ed called in? We'll get to your purchases. I'm sure you had dozens. Remember last week on the pod, Ed called in and he named all of the people that he wanted to listen to his show?
Yep, and I saw your efforts afterwards.
Okay, so I go through and I get all the people, and there was like, he said Justin number 1, and that was the only one that I couldn't find, right? Mm-hmm. So there was somebody else that he mentioned that I'm like, oh, I know that their public Twitter isn't out there anymore, but I'm definitely following that person's burner. So let me go find their burner and tag that, and Ed didn't pick up on it or whatever. But in doing so, going through like my followers list, I found no less than 3 abandoned Ed burner accounts.
Well, you know, he burns hot and fast and then he fizzles out, you know.
He certainly does.
All right, I don't have a huge week in weekly purchases. I'm going to be relatively quick on this, just because we have another show to record. But if you remember at the LVAC Steel Stack show, I got my Eddie Kingston AEW figure signed, and I also gave my Micro Brawler to our buddy Dave, and I had him get it signed for me. So my Kingston Brawler was signed, and I kind of got itchy to get an unsigned one if I saw one cheap enough. Just to, I could have a signed one and an unsigned because I'm a sociopath. And I bought one of those in the Major Pod group for like $13 shipped. Somebody had like a deal on one. So got an Eddie Kingston Micro Brawler. I went on a little bit of a doll safari with Brett from We Need Wrestling this past Friday. And we met up in Wilkes-Barre, and I just gave him some figs I owed him. But we went into the Target, and Brett's a coward. He doesn't buy the things he should buy. He saw a perfectly good NECA RoboCop figure, and we talked about how it would look great standing next to his Surfer Sting, but he chickened out. So shame. No, actually, you know what? In the great words of Bryan Danielson, amateur. But while we were there, they actually just put out some Elite 100 figures. So I managed to get the WCW US champion Stunning Steve Austin.
Okay.
And some guy literally like seconds before we got there grabbed the Chase Andre the Giant with like the teal jacket. But I wasn't that mad because the box was destroyed. So I was like, I wouldn't have bought it anyways. But so I managed to get one of the Elite 100 figures I needed. So that was cool.
And for Brett to pass up on that RoboCop, and DJ ended up wearing the Sting RoboCop Capital Combat shirt. It was a sign. He should have bought it anyway.
I know, he definitely should have. He ended up getting, I'm sure he'll talk about it on his show. He got some other stuff, but I tried to twist his arm to get that NECA RoboCop. Earlier in that day, I went to our local toy store in Scranton, Monstars. And it was actually, I saw something that caught my interest, and it was, how like the last couple toy shows I went to, like Toy Hio and the Philly Con, I started buying old 80s and early 90s carrying cases for figures.
Yeah, like there was like the WWE one, the Transformers one. Sure.
Yeah, I'm starting kind of like a collection because I got an old LGN WWF one. I have a WCW. I have a couple Transformers ones. But at Monstars, they had a Marvel Superheroes one from the 1991 Superheroes line.
Oh, cool.
And the owner wasn't there, and I asked, like, how much is that? And the guy's like, oh, there's no price on it. I don't know. You want to check back another day? I'm like, all right, well, that kind of sucks. But I did.
I'm right here, right now. I want to give you money for it.
Yeah, exactly. But I ended up going back the next day, and it was only $20, and I was like, all day. And I'm actually sending it to you right now. It's really nice looking. I bought it because, I mean, A, I'm kind of collecting these cases now, and B, it has the Punisher on it, which is it just looks cool, and it's got Spidey, and it's got Dr. Doom, and it's got the Hulk, and on the side, not pictured, is Captain America. So it's just kind of a cool, like, I think this came out in 91. A cool case, and it's in really nice shape.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the front of like the back of the case, like outside of like a little bit on the top is like almost near perfect.
Yeah, it's like got a little bit of scuffing, but it's it's 35 years old or whatever.
I do like that it's all like repurposed art. Yeah. Spidey makes it on there twice. I'm just saying he's the best character there is.
And that's a McFarlane Spidey on the front, isn't it?
Well, right. Okay, so everything is like 70s and 80s art, maybe even 60s art on the Doctor Doom, but they have to work in like that very specific McFarlane Spidey on the front as well. I love it.
Yeah. So this caused me to kind of not only take inventory of what I already had, like collector case wise, but more importantly to kind of put together a list of not necessarily what I'm missing, because I'm missing a lot, but what I'm missing and also want. So I did a little bit of research on eBay, and I put together like a little list of what I need. And there's like some G.I. Joes. I don't own any G.I. Joe ones. There's a Transformers one I still need. There's a He-Man one I need. So I put together a list, but I also saw as I was looking, and this is kind of Todd's fault, but I picked up, and I'm going to shoot you a picture, a Star Trek The Next Generation one.
Oh, boy.
I bought it because it was so incredibly cheap. Like, I don't understand how this guy is not going to lose money after shipping it unless he flattens it down and folds it into an envelope. Like, there's no way he's going to ship it to me and still make money on it. So, again, I like the Star Trek. Like, I like Picard. I used to watch Next Generation when I was a little kid. But I definitely didn't collect Star Trek figures. Like, I just wasn't something I did. But again, because I'm kind of starting this collection of carrying cases and this was super cheap, it's not something that was on my list of things I need, but I was like, oh, okay, I'm just grabbing it, you know?
So I feel as though these are going to take up a lot more space than the actual figures that you collect.
Oh, I know, these are the worst, but they stick out. The nice thing is they can just be thrown in a pile. Like, I'm not worried about the condition. I'm not, like, kicking them. But, like, I can stack them super high and not worry about, like, the one at the bottom being damaged, you know?
Do these have, like, the little platform inside them as well?
They some of them, like, depending on which case, like, the Star Trek one and the Marvel one have those super thin plastic trays that you can remove.
Okay.
But there are some of the larger ones, like if they say jumbo collector's case on them, they'll have like the hard shelves in the middle.
So, you know, obviously the reason I ask is because, like, obviously you can, like, Russian nesting doll them, like putting them inside one or the other, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, the majority of them, because they're probably all being made by the same company, they're for the most part all the same size, or there's like multiples that are the same size. So it's like you can't really put one inside the other. But anyways, that defeats the purpose because they either have trays or they have shelves. You know?
So you mentioned all these different toy lines. Are you even going to bother with the Star Wars ones because those are so different and unique?
Nah, you know what? I don't want. I kind of want to stick with the ones that are made of like the laminated cardboard.
Right.
Like, I don't want the Darth Vader head or the C-3PO head. I was kind of doing some research, and there's a old DC Superpowers ones from, like, the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
And that one's made of, like, plastic. Like, the whole thing is plastic. And, like, kind of like a plastic suitcase. And I'm like, nah, I don't need that. I want to stick with the ones that are made out of cardboard, you know?
Because I know there was definitely a plastic suitcase Star Wars one as well. And there's technically, and again, I guess you could call it a carrying case, but it was like a Chewbacca bandolier.
Yeah, now I've seen those before.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sticking with this style, and I actually just shot you a picture of all of the ones that I have saved on my phone. Like the DC one, like I mentioned, I kind of don't want because it's not the right style, but all those other ones in the picture I definitely need.
Yeah.
And you get how they're all kind of like that cardboard with the plastic wrapped around it, you know?
Yep, I vividly remember, like, I definitely had the He-Man one. My brother definitely had the Ninja Turtles one. And I guess the Ninja Turtles picture that you have there, that's the front and the back?
No, there's actually two different versions.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm not sure if that's the front and the back or two different versions. But I like how there's the one where it's like, you know, the more softer version of the Turtles. Yeah. And then there's the other one where it's like, not the harder version, but like the slightly more harder version, you know?
Yeah, one of them, they're all making mad face, and the other one, they're eating pizza and happy, you know?
Yeah. But that Superpowers one is badass.
It is, but like I said, I gotta have a rule, and I think my rule might be to stick with the one type of case. And I just shot you a picture of what I have already.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of want to stick with that material.
Absolutely. All cool stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, these, I think the most I spent on one was, like, the Jumbo Transformers one at Toy Hio, and that might have been, like, $35, and that was inflated because it was at Toy Hio. So they're not an expensive thing, because is the only one that I saw that was super expensive, and I'm lucky because it's a different material, it's like the hard shell one, is the actual Hasbro WWF one. Because for whatever reason, like all the wrestling figure collectors are scooping those up. but at the same time, they don't want the WCW or the LJN, which is very odd. So that's why I'm like, I'm happy with the one style. The Hasbro WWF I don't need because it's the hard shell.
For sure.
But that's actually it for me.
Cool. Look at that.
Yeah, like I said, I just the Eddie Kingston, the Elite that I found in the wild, and those carrying cases.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, obviously I haven't been out to a Target, Walmart, what have you, or down to the toy aisle in quite some time. But, you know, if I saw one of the new things that were out there, I would, even though I don't need them, you know, I would be very tempted to grab them. So
yeah, and
I'm with you.
Myself and Brett went looking for the Target Legends. There was one of the head shrinkers there that he grabbed. I'm looking for the Paul Heyman. I have it on pre-order, but everybody and their cousin is finding them already.
Yep.
No such luck in our area. But
fingers crossed that Brucey shows up in the wild sooner than later, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And other than that, I might buy a stuffed beaver, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, if there's no other way to close out the show, then that's it. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. This was episode 239 of At Odds with Wrestling. For Adam, this is Joe saying be safe out there and enjoy some wrestling.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.